Welcome to the Middle AGEish podcast, authentically and unapologetically keeping it real, discussing all things middle-age-ish, a time when metabolism slows and confidence grows. Join fashion and fitness entrepreneur Ashley Badowski, former Celtic woman and founder of the Lisa Kelly Voice Academy, Lisa Kelly, licensed psychologist and mental health expert, Dr. Pam Wright, and highly sought-after cosmetic injector and board-certified nurse practitioner, Trisha Kennedy Roman. Join your hosts on the journey of Middle AGEish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Middle AGEish. I'm Lisa Kelly, and I'm joined tonight by Trisha Kennedy Roman and Dr. Pam Wright. We're actually missing Miss Ashley today because her AC is broken, so she had to get it fixed. But we are so excited to welcome our guest this evening, Ilene Marcus. She's a much sought-after speaker with helpful advice for anyone stuck in their everyday climb. And she is also the author of Managing Annoying People and a blogger for 60 and Me. You are very welcome to our show this evening, Miss Ilene. We're delighted to have you. I love the name of that book.
Yes. You'll have to tell us all about how to deal with annoying people.
I need this in my life.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
So tell us about your book, Ilene. I mean, I'm sure we could all write plenty of things about annoying people, but managing them seems to be a bit hard for most people.
Well, let me start with it's so annoying that Ashley is not here because I really connected with her. So shout out to Ashley B for reaching out and all that. So I wrote this book because it's a handbook on how to manage me. I was annoying. I was that superstar who got it done, who everybody turned to, that was promoted through the ranks. But boy, was I a handful. I wanted your time. I wanted your information. I wanted more resources. I wanted that office. I wanted it this way. And that's a lot for a boss to handle, especially when I started managing my own team and oversaw about 10,000 people. I realized I am surrounded by a team of mini-me's and they're driving me crazy. And the book was born, basically. And it really talks about how to find peace and serenity and watch our own behaviors so that we can show up that way and be more of a reflection of who we want the others to be. So it's really managing others is about managing yourself.
Yeah, it reminds me, I just saw a quote that said, be the person that you want to work with. And I guess that's kind of what you're saying there with that.
Yes. A lot of CEOs invited me into their inner sanctum, right? Into their team meetings to meet with them and see why they're not getting what they want from their staff. And time after time, I had to turn around and say, look at what you're giving. You're getting upset. You're rolling your eyes. You're on your phone. How do you expect your staff to be present or honest with you when that's not what you're doing? And there's a real subtle twist here. When you think you're building your team because there's one person that's annoying or doesn't dress right or, you all think is crazy and you are kind of, bonding with everybody else over that, that switches on you. There becomes a point that everybody says, wait a minute, that could be me in the future. And then everything falls apart. So it's really important that you be the kind of person that you want people to work with, that if your values are integrity and honesty and openness and collaboration, that's what you show and you stay present for your staff.
That's super important. Do you find when you're talking about this, though, do you approach it differently if it's a man or a woman? Because I kind of feel sometimes that if a woman is a go-getter and a woman wants things done and wants everything, then she's considered annoying or bossy, whereas we don't usually say that about men.
Yeah, there's definitely a double standard here, without a doubt. That does exist. But I always come at it when I coach people or when I coach them, definitely very different. With women, it's a lot about, I know you're not being annoying, but this is what they hear. This is what they see. This is what they're saying. So I was in a meeting recently where a woman said, I have given him that folder and that form, right? She's the administrator. One of the department heads needed to fill something out. And she said, I have given it to him 5 times. Here are the emails. Here's the times I gave to him. Here's what I've done. And I looked at her and I said, but that he's saying he doesn't have it. And what he needs is your help. So saying you gave it to him, that's not what he's hearing. What he's hearing is, I didn't get any help. You emailed it to me and you wiped your hands of it. Might be a little bit of a different conversation with a guy. With a guy, it might be, did you go over and sit with him? And what did you do? I don't have to deal so much with what they're thinking about you. I just have to tell the man what he should go do.
I'm a psychologist, and a lot of times working with people, like they see other people's, I guess, like annoying habits or bad habits, but getting them to be introspective and look at their own things can be really difficult. So how do you go about helping them to do that? Because you're right. I mean, everyone has their own quirks and annoying tendencies and things. How do you get them to like dial into that?
Well, I have a tagline that says, you'll laugh, you'll cringe, you'll change. When you see your own behavior sometimes, or you see it in someone else, that's what really gets you going. I say that all the world, I'm into Shakespeare these days, all the world's a stage, but all the world is a mirror. And either we have what we see, we're like, we like that, that's us, or we don't like it. So getting people to look at themselves about how others might perceive themselves, be open to the possibility. Simple tricks, right? It's the pointed finger. You point the finger at that person, you got 3 back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Any way you can get someone to think about it differently, what might I be doing? I'm not saying, for me, that the other person is not annoying. I'm not telling you that you're not right about what they're doing and they didn't do their job and they should be doing it better. But as long as they're moral, ethical, and competent, then it's incumbent on you, especially nowadays with Zoom and all the different modes of communication. It's really incumbent on you to say, how can I best get my message across? What can I change? So my entire job is basically getting people to see their BS, their blind spots, the things they don't see.
I love that. I love that too. I love that too. I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to do that with myself because, again, I work for myself, so I don't have I don't have to worry about annoying too many people. But it's just when you're I deal with kids every day, so even trying to get them to notice what they're doing, their behavior, and try and stop it in their tracks now is something, gosh, I struggle with. And I get very impatient at times.
One thing I've noticed before is just like when I might see a parent playing on their phone instead of playing with, paying attention to their kid. And I think, oh my gosh, that looks horrible. But I've done that, so it's very easy to look at other people, and think, wow, they really snapped at their husband and that was really awful. Well, I've done that, so I think it's much easier to look at someone else and see when they're doing wrong than it is yourself. So I think that introspect is really important.
I call that one Goldilocksing, right? We all know the story about Goldilocks and the 3 bears, do we? I mean, other generations don't know it. But Goldilocks goes into this house. She's tired. She stumbles upon a house. She's wants the porridge. The big bowl is too hot. The other bowl is too cold. The little bowl, the middle bowl is just right. Bed, too soft, too hard, just right. And we all think about let's right size our behavior, right? Because no one is perfect all the time. We all get annoyed. We all have a bad day. We're human. We all, even the computer is human. Sometimes it doesn't do what you want it to do. It hiccups. So we have to forgive ourselves that. So we all want to right size. But why I call it Goldilocksing is as soon as you are looking at someone else's behavior and judging them, we forget that Goldilocks was trespassing. She was in someone else's house. She broke and entered. We don't want to be trespassers. We don't want them doing it to us. So do you want someone eating your porridge? Do you want someone at your table taking, someone else taking your inventory? So I say, notice your BS and do not trespass into someone else's area. Stay away. Don't Goldilocks it. Find the right size, but do not cross that boundary, which not yours.
That's funny. Yeah. When I work with adolescents, sometimes parents will tell me oh, they have these tantrums and it's horrible. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know, but film them and let's see. And as soon as they go to film, if it's a kid or an adolescent, they freak out. They don't want to be filmed at all because I mean, they know obviously, right? This is going to look really, really bad for my therapist or my teacher or whoever. And so I think that if we had cameras around us 24/7 to see, really see our behaviors, it would make a big change.
A lot of people ask me, Eileen, what tools do you need to do your job? And I'm like, my phone. It's the same thing with CEOs. You say, oh, can I just tape your team? And at first, the first 5 or 10 minutes, they're all on perfect behavior. And then they forget that you're taping.
Yeah.
And when I show it back to them, there's that cringe factor. Exactly. So it works really well at any age. And that's really important also for friends, for teams, for anyone, because anyone can be taping you at any time, whether it's work, it's not work, it's a PTA meeting. You're in a bar and you say something, just you think you're being funny to your friends. And if you have a public position or a work position or anything, neighbors, it can get picked up wrong. Mm-hmm. So the world has really changed in that way. And if you embrace that instead of running from it, really think about, if other people were looking down on me, is that who I want to be? That's another good way of really, really changing your behavior. Mm-hmm. Is that who I want to be? Is that how I want to show up? I want to tell you a funny story about reflective listening, though, because, I'm in the field and when my daughter's older now, she's 29, but when she was young, she went through that phase where, I would say, Samantha, pack your bag. You pack your bag, where they do that thing back to you. Samantha, go take a bath. You take a bath, right? Yeah. She kept on doing that to me. And there's something called reflective listening, which is a great social work or a therapy or an interview tool. I'm sure you use it as a therapist. Mm-hmm. And it's a great tool where someone says, I don't like the way you did that. And you say, oh, you don't like the way that happened, right? You reflect back to get more information, not to put words in their mouth. But sometimes when they hear themselves, they hear it differently. They say, I said, you just said that. And they're like, oh, I did just say it. People don't always hear themselves. But when I was managing, one time this man said to me, hey, I need you to, and I'm like, you go file the forms. And he's like, he took me to HR over it. I was flip, right? And I was his boss, but I was so in that head and it was fine. And I apologized, but he didn't know that I was at home, with my daughter and her 20 other 8-year-olds. And I'm like, no, you go file the form, because I was throwing back at him what I was hearing. So those mimicking and that reflective listening is really, it's a very powerful tool that we forget to use.
I was just thinking as we were talking about this, that it would really be not fun to be on a reality TV show because it is recorded and then you will look back on yourself and see all the things you did.
Yeah, but it is funny. It's so funny how quickly you forget. Like cameras are around. I always say that about reality TV. Yeah. And I know they have edits and everything, but if you have a camera following you around for a while, you really are on your best behavior for only about 10 minutes. And then you just forget that they're there and you just go.
It's a free for all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've cussed so many times.
Yeah. You start to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. It can happen in a variety of ways. So that's a really good way to look at managing yourself. Who do I want to be and how does that come out? Because we've all been in that position, whether at work or birthday party, even for the kids, where we said something where we're like, why did I say that? Maybe someone had a better present or a car we liked better. And we're like, well, and you're like, why was I upping them? So you have to look within yourself to what that is. But you have to, I really work with people and myself to train what I call how to get out of our own way, how not to say something cringeworthy. Where is that coming from? When in doubt, shut your mouth. I mean, that is the best advice I can give anyone. And we're taught in this world, especially women, to speak up, to use our voice. But I always go by the saying, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it meanly. Mm-hmm. And it's really good to shut your mouth first and reflect on what you want to say. You can always say it again. It might not be in the moment. It might not be at the right time, but the situation you're in is not what I like to say is your last bite at the apple. So just sit back and get some perspective. It can change everything, especially what comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like sometimes people want to jump in too quickly and they want to, say something or feel like they have to answer something immediately versus saying, hey, let me take a while and think about that, or let me get back to you tomorrow. And I do supervision with interns, and the thing that they have the most difficulty with is silence. So just sitting in a room with a client, and if they're silenced, they want to jump in because they're uncomfortable just to fill the space and ask a question and move forward. But it's really, you just need to sit with the silence and see what comes from that. But it's so hard, I think, for people to do.
I'm so glad you said that because it reminds me of one of my favorite tools that I train people on. And that is called the secret smile. Think about Mona Lisa. We do not know why Mona Lisa is smiling. We don't know what's happening under her dress, not to get rude. We don't know anything. And we don't really know, right? There's been thesis and people and, years of commentary. Is that the first turned up smile? Is it a knowing smile? So I say have the secret smile. So when you're sitting quiet, have a look on your face that makes others think, what are they up to? And that helps to preoccupy you, so you keep your mouth shut, but it also puts others on edge. So if you're not sure about the situation and how to respond, it's going to change the temperature of the room a little. You can get a little more information if you use that secret smile. And of course, we all know that it takes much less muscles to smile than it does to frown. So you present yourself better and you're gathering some vital information. So I say smile like you have a secret and be surprised what you can learn. And it helps you to sit silent.
Mm-hmm. So do you go into corporate businesses and speak to them, or do you spend a lot of time actually training people? And if so, how long does it take to reprogram people?
How long does it take to reprogram people? Always a good question. I actually work with people on why their team isn't gelling, and that could be, from a financial perspective, from an operational, from a new project launch, and that always ends up being team behavior. Who's not listening? Who's not paying attention? There's always some miscommunication. So I usually go in and work with the CEO and his team around a project where they've called in the accountant, they've called in this person, but they can't find that reason why it's not coming together, why the whole isn't greater than the sum of the parts. And then it all comes down to this. And I'm the kind of girl, took me a long time to admit this, ladies. I'm a one-night stand kind of girl. I like to get in and get out. I don't like long-term relationships. So it's true. Most of my corporate relationships, are, over sometimes a 10-week period, a 5-week period, 3 to 5 meetings. If I'm really digging into your finances and kind of how your priorities are expressed in your finances and how your team is following them or not, it might be 10 or 12 meetings. So it's a really quick thing. It's usually most of the time one of the things about me is I'm very much a straight shooter. I say people have to want to work with a strong cup of coffee. I love coffee and I love strong coffee. And that's me. I'm going to really tell you right up front. So my work engagements are usually short, but I have them. People come back to me every few years when they need a cleanup. I have an incredible repeat business. And actually now I'm trying to move but now that I'm older and wiser, I'm not middle-aged like you ladies anymore. I'm almost end of middle-aged. I'm really trying to work it more to speaking, where I go in and talk to everybody about how they hear people, how they manage themselves, and how that impacts the whole team. And that really focuses on how they contribute to the bottom line, what they do every day. I like to say, I'm a big coffee person. So whether they're picking the beans, roasting the beans, serving the beans, or sweeping up after the beans, you have a place that's important to make that cup of coffee happen. And how do you honor that contribution? And how do you honor that as being a good team member? So I mostly now speak to groups about managing yourself and teams that are gearing up for a big project. So that's usually, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe some breakout sessions. So that's a long answer, but there are many different ways to work with me. But I usually come in through the CEO, help the team gel, motivate them, make them cringe, make them laugh, hopefully leave them with something they'll remember and move on.
I think that really what you're talking about is something that is not just applicable to work. I mean, obviously this would be with, friendships, marriages, parenting. I think really what you're saying is kind of, you should apply it to all aspects of your life.
100%. And, that's something. I'm a social worker by training, and I joke about it that I just, do social work in the corporate setting, because it all comes down to helping people to see what they're bringing into the situation. I always use the example of, we're late that morning, whatever, I spilled a cup of coffee, I had a problem with my car, and all of a sudden I have to get to work. And we all know the story, right? The person in front of you, the red lights, the day that you're late, everyone else is taking their time. So when you show up, and sometimes there's no reason, right? You're just running late. When you show up, you're already hyped up. You're already annoyed. And you think, wow, I got here. You're patting yourself on the back and saying, look at me. I jumped 40 obstacles this morning and I got it done. Instead, you're already showing up revved up. I have never seen a person that doesn't get a little road rage, that doesn't carry that on throughout the day. So you're bringing something to it, and then other people are reacting to you. And a lot of times you are bringing family situations into work or work situations into family. It really does go both ways. So what you're saying is really, really important. And I think the important thing about what I do and why I can be a one night stand girl, I'm trying to think of something. It's just not coming off the top of my head. But you know how you might have trouble, this is a bad example, but filling your dishwasher, right? The dishes always come out dirty. You can't understand why. You have the newest high-powered dishwasher, you're using the top-of-the-line jet dry, and somehow your glasses are never clean. And then someone comes over and says, oh, just line them up this way, and they will be different. And you're like, oh, that's what I wasn't doing. And now you can just do that. That's what I do. I don't have to, train you on all these techniques. I have to point out to you, get you to see that, like the glasses, they're a little fuzzy, to see yourself differently, or to see, here's how you could have handled that differently. And then most of the time people are off and running. Once they see it, they're motivated to change and they can catch themselves. And if not, I suggest therapy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's kind of the same. It's the same kind of thing as therapy. It's things that you don't see and you don't recognize in yourself at the time, or you've been doing something the same way for such a long time and you've gotten stuck in that rut and it works. I think that's sometimes, the thing with when you're around people like that you're operating a certain way and it's worked for so long. So why change it? And then you kind of blame the other people coming in that they're not able to keep up or that kind of thing. And I think that's hard.
Yeah. I think that's exactly on point. I'm working on a team now that's falling apart. I'm putting together a entrepreneurial weekend, and behind the back, they're all telling me, well, this one's jealous of this one, and this one's jealous of that one. And I'm like, okay, first of all, are we in elementary school? Are we, let's we're professionals here. These are very well-respected people in their field. It's always, they love telling stories about the others. Mm-hmm. But I think that, that's exactly it. It's that especially if it's worked for us. I know that's what happened to me. I got promoted quickly. I had big teams. I always had people that really liked me and champions, but I always had fights and this and that. And it always, I don't want to say ended badly, because I was very lucky. I parachuted to the next thing or got promoted because I was competent. But until I could really understand who I was and how they might not think it's cute that I come in as a whirlwind. They might not think it's cute that I pick apart their plan the way I do. They might, my family might not think it's okay that, they want to help, but I have the kitchen clean while they're still sitting at the table having coffee, right? They wanted to show my mother they were doing it. So I think it's really important to own up to yourself who you are. And there's a really funny meme that's been going around for a while on Facebook. And it's a young man, and he says, I spent so much time trying to avoid my parents' obvious red flags that I forgot about the small ones. And he's at the sink washing out a Ziploc bag.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So my entire job is to get you to think about why you get triggered. Is it hysterical? Is it something from your past? Like you just said, you don't even know you're doing, you've just always been doing it. Mm. Is it something you learned in a certain workplace because that was the culture there? Is it something that's inside of you that, you just have anxiety and that's how you show up? So I think that once you start to realize, hey, I'm not a bad person because I do this, but I can be a better person. I can show up better. I can know who I am. It's all about knowing ourselves and honoring that. Then other people can I can help other people better if I'm more relatable and I can tone down some of my obvious personality quirks, let's call it.
I love that. Do you notice any difference between the different generations, like millennials versus, older people? Because I know I hear about that a lot in my practice. So just curious if that's something that comes up.
Yeah, huge differences. But I have a new theory that I'm happy to share. So, right, some of the differences are that older people are used to just being told what to do and go do it, or think they know what to do and just do it. Millennials, Gen Xers, whatever is below that, they want to know. Older people, baby boomers, they're thinking about what's in it for me. That's not what they're saying. They want to understand the whole picture, the value, so they understand where they fit in. So once that you can see that difference that we talked before about the coffee maker, right? I want to understand that after I roast the coffee, this is how it's going to be packaged. This is where it's going. This is who might use it. Then I understand what to do with the coffee instead of you package it, you do that and put it on the shelf, done. That doesn't really value the whole person. And I'm using the coffee as an example, but I think that's a really good way to manage any interaction with friends, family. I need this because this is what's happening before and after. Give people a context so that they can better help you. So I think that's the biggest difference that I see between the generations. And I'm really seeing something interesting lately, which is, a lot of people my age, boomers and whatever came after me, millennials maybe, it's not millennials, but a lot of people complain about, well, they got trophies. They had all these trophies. They'll think they're so good. It's actually the opposite. The people that got so many trophies didn't know what was real anymore. They didn't know if their contribution mattered. They didn't know if what they did really mattered. They didn't really know how to judge, what was important. And so part of helping them to understand their role in a situation, we ask you to do this because this happens. We ask you to do that. In a family, my daughter says it's amazing how, she says now, she has her own house and she lives with a partner, how she understands like how to pay the bills, why we pay them on time, all the different things, why you're nice to your super, how you do this, things that, I explained to her, why do we do this? Why do we do that? What's nice? How do we prepare for things? Because that gives her in context what she has to do. That's the funny part. I think it's very funny because when one generation, what's the word? When one generation is very busy criticizing another, it's everything we've been talking about. They're pointing the finger at them. Well, they got trophies. They did this. While my generation is so busy collecting certificates and coaching degrees and things after their name to prove they're worthy, which is exactly the same thing as a trophy, right? It's the same exact thing. I can go through a program and get a degree. Do I really know what I'm doing? I can play on a soccer team and get a trophy. So I think it goes back to that finger pointing. So if that's your entire defense about why you can't work with someone, for me, that's not someone I want to work with. That's not someone who's invested in my growth and actually showing me what I might not see. That was a long answer, but did that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
So do you feel like that's a common problem with kind of more, because it is much easier, just human nature to want to blame others for everything and have a more of a victim mentality all the time? Do you feel that that's a problem in a lot of the cases you see?
Victim mentality is something really, really different. I think you have to really be able to separate it out from laziness, because I think they show up the same way. And I think that because of everything that's happening in the world, people have become a little lazy. Right? I don't know if it's worth having this job. I don't know if it's worth driving to that job. I don't know if this is going to yield me enough money. And people have learned to sit back and wait. Now, I work with entrepreneurs who are anything but lazy, anything but lazy. And in the entrepreneurial world, that is the thing. They have to see the entire picture. They have to know, what my funding might be, what the idea, who else is out there, who are my champions, who aren't. So I think that if you can tease out the laziness, there are a lot of victims out there. There are people who have that learned behavior. It's never going to work for me anyway, or, I can do it. But I really think it's about investing in someone and not worrying about where they come from, but telling them what the expectation is and asking them to rise to the occasion, even in personal issues, right? With our own children, being able to say, we're having a big crowd for Thanksgiving this year. This is how I really need you to support me. And my daughter will say to me, well, Ma, I can't do that because this. And I'm like, well, what can you do for me? So having the conversation instead of, saying, do this, do that, and barking at them, then they don't do it. And you get into it. I mean, that's kind of garden variety, but you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's really a much bigger issue about honoring the other person.
What I'm hearing, Eileen, is that everybody running a company should have a social work degree. Yes, some sort of therapy degree, because I think it will make everything just so much.
Well, funny you should say that. If any of you are Star Trek fans, what we know about Star Trek is Steve Jobs, who really, created the phone that he credits to Star Trek, the computer. Alexa's going to talk if I talk to her. Alexa, play this, and all this AI. In the second generation of Star Trek, Next Generation, there are 3 seats on the bridge that runs the company or the ship. It's not just the captain. It's the captain, his number 2, who's always operationalizing and helping him to think through, and the counselor, just what you just said.
Yeah.
Because our emotions are so important in how we help others and help ourselves and how we can contribute. So important.
It's so important. It really is. And I think even more in this day and age, because I think there's more of a realization nowadays that people work differently. Just like kids learn differently in school, people work differently. We all can only work from our own perspectives too. And I think trying to gel that, and I also feel that on teams, for the most part, everybody is in competition with each other too. And that's very hard because you have to work together as a team, but you also want to be the best on the team too. And it's very hard to manage all of that, and very hard for somebody who's leading that team if they're not well versed in, human behavior and therapy and counseling, how to do that the right way without affecting the team in some way.
Yeah, I'm really amazed by what usually the 4 of you do. I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I love how one takes the lead and you follow up. I mean, you are really modeling that incredible partnership and team behavior of here's my strength, here's your strength, and how do we all grow together stronger instead of, jockeying for position. And I think that when you're out there doing it in the world, hopefully people see it and they learn how to do it. But you're right, being a member of a team, I mean, everybody that's in a relationship knows it's hard work. But the first relationship we have to be honest about is the one with ourselves. Who are we really? How do we show up? And let's face it, people say to me, so what's the chance that I'm going to be annoyed by my lover, my boyfriend, my mother, my neighbor, my coworker? And I say 100%. And they look at me and say, you can't say that. I'm like, no, I pretty much think I can. Look at any newspaper. Someone is going to annoy you, and not from what you think usually. So how we think about what triggers us. Trigger not being a bad word. It's not someone holding a gun to your head. It's about, a trigger is a start of a reaction. So I always like to say our reactions speak louder than our actions, because we come in planning to do one thing, and then the birthday cake isn't the right color, or, the table is set up wrong, and we can go on something. Does it really matter what color the birthday cake is, right? But sometimes it does, but you know what I'm saying. But really, in that moment, it's the long run, and we can go down a road like a bullet. That's why it's called a trigger. It starts a reaction. So the more that we can own our own behavior and know who we are and manage our annoying self, the better we can get along with other people and help them to enjoy the day and have fun and want to work with us and show up. And that's the goal, right? We're part of the human race for a reason. Absolutely.
You made a good point. Obviously, we can all be annoying.
Well,
We're all
laugh a little more.
we can all be annoying, and there's always annoying people. With all the things you've worked with, what would you say are probably the top 3 character traits or behaviors that you feel like you need to work on to be less annoying?
So one is over talking. I am so guilty of that, right? You have such, you got to say it. You got to say it. You got to say it. So people over talk, and that is incredibly annoying. I think the second behavior is people don't, what we were talking about before, they don't explain themselves. They say, because I'm the mother, because that's the way I said it, because that's the way I want it. They don't actually, even with a sentence, say, I'll explain it to you later, or, oh, I'm thinking this because last time I did it that way. They don't spend the time to tell someone what they're thinking. So I think a little bit of information is really important. And then I think the other one is very personal. I call them hysterical triggers. There's something that maybe it comes from your mother or your grandmother or your next door neighbor, or an old babysitter, that triggers you. And I can't say what that is, but that's why it's all about like individuals, because something, the same person, we've all done this, right? We get a text from a friend and we send it to another friend and say, should I be mad about this? What do you think of this? And they're like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. And meanwhile, you were like, oh, I can't, what are they saying that? How dare they? How dare they? So that's your personal hysterical trigger. So that's why it's so important to know ourselves. And the point is, so I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you how it shows up, right? We show up nasty, we show up disinterested, we show up angry, we say things that give us the cringe factor.
Mm-hmm. When I do couples therapy, imago therapy, I know you're probably familiar with that, but imago therapy is, you're an image. And so that things that have happened in your past, you bring into your present. So if you had a controlling father who called you a liar a lot, then when you get called a liar, then suddenly that's your trigger. That's like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. And it's not, you can't kind of overcome that. So it's just little things that trigger us that we're not aware of that have happened either in the past or like a big event in our lives that we need to be aware of moving forward, so that if that happens, it's not that person. If someone's been cheated on and we have trust issues, it's like, well, the new person is not that person, but it's hard, to kind of move forward in that way.
Yeah. And I think that is so deep. And that is, I think, the best kind of work we can do for ourselves and for others, because it's at this point, it's only us that's stopping ourselves from being able to overcome that, right? Especially if it's in the past. It's a behavior that we've taken. I'm writing a second book now, and we're searching for a title, but it's really, this one is managing annoying people. So how do you stay calm when everybody around you is, I need this, I need that, and they're driving you crazy. And this book is really about, how do I see my own patterns? How do I see what I do time and time again? I'm someone that, I grew up in a house with a lot of scarcity. So I'm someone that, every scrap of food, every current pod, everything has to be saved and accounted for, and I have to know where it is. And my daughter, I can drive her crazy with it. So how did I learn to let go when the delivery Chinese food comes and they have all those leftover chopsticks and mustards and soy sauce? I had to learn to say in our house, oh, honey, where do you want these? We must have had a drawer, one of the biggest drawers in the kitchen, filled with all of that delivery stuff that you don't know what to do with. Yeah. If I can't throw it out, I need it. I come from scarcity. I'll never forget it. I'm in my daughter's kitchen, and I could tell she probably practiced it in therapy. I'm like, oh, where do you want the chopsticks? She goes, Ma, I don't keep them. And I said, okay, and put them in the garbage. And she looked at me and she's like, who are you? What have you done with my life? And those are the stories that I'm trying to get to now, because who would think that when she said, Ma, I don't keep those, and I didn't talk her into saving those chopsticks and why she needs them, I said, okay, and threw them out, that would bring our relationship and our trust to another level, that she would say, wow, you're really working on yourself. That has driven me crazy about you, my entire life. So I think that it's really important to look at it. And like you just said, it's sometimes very little things that we grew up with, like the story I was giving about washing out a Ziploc bag, that really can make a difference in how we relate to others. And honestly, in how we spend our time, instead of rushing around and making everything perfect. We have more time for creativity, to get on the floor and play with our children, to go visit our mothers, to help someone out. So all these kind of little ways we get stuck, they don't only annoy other people, they kind of take away from ourselves. We annoy ourselves. And that's what I'm really invested in now, thinking about how you find those subtle patterns of your life, no matter where they came from,
100%.
Amazing.
Well, I think that's what we've always talked about, is just growth throughout our life is really evolving and introspection and trying to be better, because we can always be better. Every one of us can always be better. So I think it's great. And I love how what you've said is really relatable to just work, life, everything. And so I think it's awesome. But tell us the name of your book again, because I want to order it as soon as we end tonight.
So thank you. It's on Amazon. It's Managing Annoying People. It's got a bright, funny. It's a podcast, but has a bright orange cover. Managing Annoying People. And some of the book has, so right on Amazon, so it has my favorite acronym, TEAM, Together Everyone Annoys Me.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I really, really appreciate you coming. I have to tell you, Ashley sent a text while we were doing this saying that she is really sorry. She had this emergency with her air conditioning, and she was so sad she didn't get to text you and tell you it was very last minute that she couldn't come. But she's really enjoyed her talks with you, and obviously I see why now. You're a delight to talk to. So we really appreciate your time. I think this is really valuable to me, I know for sure.
And me. Same. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for not letting me annoy you.
No,
Thank you
you
so
did not. Not at all.
You're wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye. She was awesome.
Oh, that was so good. Yes. Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense, though, right?
It does.
Looking at your own behavior and how you impact other people. And
I was very annoying this morning with my husband. And saying that as we were doing, I was really annoying earlier. So he threw my routine off because I always let the dogs out. He let the dogs out like ahead of time, and then I hadn't taken the puppy. I've just messed up the whole routine, and I was very frustrated. I'm like, that was so stupid to like act a little annoyed over that. It was just a dumb thing.
It happens. Yeah.
Hate when the structure is changed.
It's like you have a whole morning routine.
Yeah. You expect it to go this way, and then it goes that way, and then like people are like, oh no, it needs to go the other way. Yeah. But I do think that's true. Like things from our past come up, right? Like in therapy, I see all the time things from their past come up, and if they're triggered in the here and now, it just like, oh, like I don't trust anybody, or I don't like, anything like this. It's just different.
Mm-hmm. I love how she wasn't like placing blame on it.
No.
That kind of way, like that even when you brought up the fact of different generations and stuff that you can see, because I always feel that when I'm teaching, like, because I have a huge range, like you have a huge range of people, you see. So, but I get to see the way that they work and how they like learn something, and everyone's always complaining. Older generations are always complaining about the younger ones, like,
and vice versa too.
Yes. I was like, these kids are amazing.
Yeah,
they are. With what they deal with. We didn't have to deal with what they deal with. Like their lives are so different.
Social media.
They amaze me what they can let roll off their back. Scott and I get really upset about things, that are posted or said about us, and the kids just go, "What? Why did you care?
Well, who cares, right?
What are you talking about? That's said about people every day. Get over it." It's just like, it's so funny.
I think the thing that I loved about her too is that she was like, I was the annoying person. Like, it's not coming back, oh, everyone was annoying me when I was like a boss or whatever. She's like, I was the annoying person. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I also wish people sometimes, though, would say to you more, that's really annoying. I mean, I know I can be so annoying, but I wish people that I annoy would turn around and go, listen, that's really annoying.
But then my feelings would be so hurt.
Oh, yeah, I see how I'm trying to be like, oh, God.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, I would too. I'd be like, yes.
Yeah. I understand. I get it.
It's all introspection. I mean, it really is like it's always easier to blame someone else for everything. But like, okay, what part did I have in that?
Of course.
It's like be a problem solver.
Just be a decent human. Like we can all be annoying, but just be a decent human,
Yeah, don't intentionally mean to cause harm.
Yes.
Be decently annoying.
Just
when in doubt, shut your mouth.
Oh, that's it.
Cheers to that. When in doubt,
shut your mouth. Here we go.
Thank you for joining the ladies of the Middle AGEish podcast as they journey through the ups and downs of this not young, but definitely not old season of life. To hear past episodes or make suggestions for future episodes, visit www.middleageish.com. That's www.middleageish.com. You can follow along on social media at Middle AGEish. Also, if you have a moment to leave a review, rate, and subscribe, that helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Middle AGEish podcast.